Hey there, toy collector friends and Doctor Who fans alike. Welcome back to the channel. I'm the Triple TC, that's the time travelling toy collector, and this is part 11. Can you believe part 11 in my Parliament of the Daleks limited series, looking at those Daleks included in the box sets, predominantly issued by Eagle Moss, of 10 collectible Daleks in each set. Packaged under the sort of umbrella heading of Parliament of the Daleks. I've augmented it with a couple of other videos along the way, and there's hardly anything left now. We're nearly there at the end of this particular run of figures, and interestingly, these two come from the same story. So they're both from 1980s, and they are from Remembrance of the Daleks. Now, I'm always learning and always trying to make things better, so I've since I've started taking these out of the packaging, I thought, well, why not just start with them out of the packaging? We're sort of familiar with what the sort of plastic containers that they are provided in look like. You know, there's these little pods, and as they're from the same story, we can see on the back they're both from Remembrance of the Daleks, featuring the 7th Doctor. We have the Supreme Dalek, and we have an Imperial Dalek, and here they are. So I thought I'd kick straight into having them out of the box. I must admit, when I first started this series, which was not long after I started the channel, I was still quite, I suppose, a bit risk averse to taking things out of the boxes. So there's I think the majority, if not all, of the original Daleks, I don't think I ever took them fully out of the box. And that's something I'm going to have to go back and look at, because actually handling these gives me a whole new appreciation for them. And I do think that that's something that maybe from a collector point of view, I certainly, and maybe others, run the risk of falling foul of, because if we're honest, part of the reason we collect stuff is to connect with it, certainly for me. So I think I might go back and reopen them. I'm not going to subject you all to a repeat performance of all the earlier videos. Again, as I say, that was a learning curve for me and a constant progression. But I might do a composite. I'm thinking of doing a composite video of all of them, maybe out of the box, just to go through the entire Parliament set, the 2 sets, and a couple of additional figures that I've acquired along the way. But that's for the future. And talking of the future and the past, please do like this video if in any way, shape or form you do find it interesting, and similarly do drop a subscription to the channel. It's free to do. It's a small click for you, but a massive leap forwards for me, as I am very, very keen to reach my next subscriber milestone. And you know, it really helps with the algorithm malarkey in terms of letting people see what is out here. So, talking of what's out here, we have these 2 frankly quite super Daleks from the 1980s, the late 80s, Sylvester McCoy's penultimate season as the Doctor, as the 7th Doctor. So we'll start with the Supreme Dalek, and I think, again, what's nice here is the re-angling of the gun stick and the elevated angle of the manipulator arm. They tend to be a little bit like this one here, where they're both just sort of prominently out. So when they do take an artistic decision to slightly re-angle these, I personally am someone who's very grateful for that. So just taking a little look at the figure, we've got some paint apps on the dome sensors, aka his ears. There's the eye stalk there with some nice silver discs. We also have the silver on the rings around the headpiece. You possibly can't see them, but there are some slats on the interior there, down the side, behind those silver rings. The middle section is very nicely painted in silver there, with those rivets. And what I think it captures quite well is, and I know we talk a lot about screen accuracy with some of these things, but what I like here, because it is sort of a tribute to screen accuracy, is the slightly haphazard nature of some of these, which if you go back, you see the spacing is different, etc, etc. And if you go back, and there's not even any rivets on that one, if you go back and look at the 1980s episodes, That's kind of accurate because they weren't well looked after props. So they do suffer a bit from that kind of thing. Anyway, the black and silver of this really pops, and I'm a massive fan. I think it helps with the dynamic look of the gun stick and the manipulator arm being opposing slightly. I think that really works in its favour. And then we have all the spheres around the skirt unit painted silver. There is a small amount of black paint bleed around the base, but very little on these, actually, very little indeed. Underneath we have the Supreme Dalek with the licensing information, etc. But I really like, in fact, I think both of these, I know we're getting close to the end of the Parliament set, but I think both of these are doing a sterling job in representing their episode, I have to say. So let's now move over to the Imperial Dalek. Similar in many respects, but quite noticeably different in others. We see the blue in the eye stalk here, up there. There is a little bit of positioning of the manipulator arm. You can see that has the two slots in it as well at the edge to the gun stick, so it's not exactly, they're not exactly aligned, which is nice. Again, we can see that white and gold motif running throughout. The ear pieces, which aren't ears, I know, but sort of the dome sensors, let's call them that, picked out in gold. The eye stalk, I mean, again, they're quite small, so it's hard to get some really excellent paint apps on that, but I think they do a sterling job. You can see here much clearer, I think, in the light, the silvery white that threads through the gold there, what should be the gold mesh really on the headpiece. Then we have the gold and white slats, that placement there for the gun and the manipulator arm, very nice. And of course, mirroring the other Dalek we've just seen, we have the gold spheres nestled in a white painted nest. And again, sometimes you can see here, for example, on the right there, some paint bleed, but otherwise, overall, it's a very nice piece. We have the official stamp there, and of course, as ever, we have the official numbering and licensing information on the base. So again, these do a sterling job, I would suggest, of representing these two key Daleks from the 7th Doctor's Remembrance of the Daleks series from, I think, 1988, if I remember rightly. Ish, but don't quote me on that. And I think they're lovely. I think, again, they're a wonderful addition to the Parliament of the Daleks set. They're very clean. I think they're some of the cleanest painted Daleks. Actually, as I'm looking, you can now see that's the silver lines in that head section there that mirror the white ones, whitish silverish ones running through the gold there. So that's actually, I could have just left it there and you'd seen it much better. But I really do like the juxtaposition of these Daleks. And again, we can see there the gun sticks, actually, because it's black on black, it's easy if I turn them a little bit at an angle there so you can see. But yeah, I am really quite the fan of these two. I'm quite the fan of all of them, to be fair, but particularly these two are, I think, perhaps two of the best painted ones. And I know mileage will vary from box to box, but if you are still thinking about it, it might be worth checking out some of the online retailers, because I think some of these have come, some of the Parliament of the Daleks box sets have come back. I think Sci-Fi Collector may have some, Master Replicas may have some. It's worth having a check if you're having a look at these and thinking, actually, they are quite nice. They do look quite good, and believe me, they do. They obviously don't scale with Character Options toys because they're not supposed to. They're part of the Doctor Who figurine collection, so they definitely don't scale with your action figures. But as a display piece, especially when they're all together, they are really quite striking. And when they're all together and you've got so much to pull your focus, some of those slight aberrations around paint apps aren't really so obvious. So yeah, so for me it's an absolute, I'm really pleased with them. So I hope you've liked this up close and personal look at these two Daleks. Very close, as I say, to the end of this this run of videos about the Dalek collected, the Dalek sets from Eagle Moss. We know that the Doctor Who license has been picked up, and there will be more models coming in the future, so that's something to look forward to. But we also know that they're not looking to revisit and remake previous Eagle Moss and Hero Collector models. So if you have managed to collect some of these, do look after them. Do remember to treat them as models rather than toys, because you will benefit from that. Because out there in the wilderness, some of these will break, be cracked, be lost, etc. And if you've looked after yours, then if monetary value is important to you, they will likely increase in value to other collectors over time. Equally, like myself, you may not be looking at for that angle, and you might just be happy to have them, in which case definitely look after them, because nothing's more upsetting than something that you love getting broken, and you can tell I speak from experience. And if those of you who remember all the way back when I opened up the second Parliament of the Daleks box set, one of my Daleks came pre-broken. So you'll be able to see in the next video along the line of this one how exactly that whether or not I was able to fix it in any way that was satisfactory, and I'll be able to show you that in the next one. Anyway, thanks for spending the last 12 or so minutes with me. I appreciate your time. I've been the Time Travelling Toy Collector. You have been a wonderful listener and viewer, and this has been the Supreme Dalek and an Imperial Dalek from Remembrance of the Daleks, both included in the second Parliament of the Daleks. It's a lot of the Daleks. Parliament of the Daleks box set from Eagle Moss. Thanks so much. I hope you've managed to like the video. I hope you've subscribed to the channel, and I very much hope to see you in a future or past video. Take care. Bye-bye for now.